All right, thanks everybody. Thanks Jacob for having us today. As you mentioned, my name is Ajay Rayasam. I'm the CEO of Flexpress. I'm here with Saeed, the CEO of Refact. And if Flexpress doesn't sound familiar, it probably shouldn't. We used to be called Organic up until this summer. So I'm here at my first AMO with a new brand in tow. And that is where we are today with Flexpress. We've got a talk for you today about infrastructure. Specifically how it creates enterprise value. And I know that this is going to sound mundane, but it really does impact everything that we have talked about today on stage. I'll go into a little bit of detail why. And if the technology side of it, particularly AI, is creating some anxiety or apprehension in the room, hopefully in the next 10 minutes, you'll feel a little bit more confident about it. So infrastructure, I wasn't around in 1973 when the internet was born, but I'm going to go into a bit of a history lesson as to what infrastructure means. This was the internet in 1973. The first piece of content published at that time was a blog about the World Wide Web. So there was a computer with some content on it. There's some software that sits on that computer, and there's a wire, and then it gets to your computer at the end. That's your viewer or your audience. So over the years, there have been a bunch of changes. We heard a lot about mainframe that turned into cloud, and then cloud, there was blockchain, and then NFTs was a thing for a while, and now it's AI. Before that, it was called machine learning. Before that, it was big data. So this is, after all of that innovation, and even processor design and storage, all of that changed. What does it look like today? Right, you would expect, this is what it looks like. And this is an oversimplified view, but you can kind of get my point. Not a whole lot has changed. So when we think about AI and the impact that it's going to have, one thing to remember is that everything up until this point, from the 70s until now, has been incremental. And AI is likely not going to be anything different. So don't overreact into thinking that it's going to ruin everything in media. If anything, we're still exploring the impact that it is going to have, and I'm bearish on the kind of impact that it could have. So with that being said, what are we trying to accomplish? Of course, we want to produce good results for our customers, specifically in media. And that means one of two things. You can either increase revenue, increase the value of the enterprise as a whole. And they're genuinely connected, but in maybe a way that we're not kind of overtly aware. In order to get the company sold, and I think we heard earlier today about how fragmented media is, when there's fragmentation in a market and the price of money goes down, what happens? Consolidation. So I think we're running up to an event where there'll be some M&A coming up, which will provide opportunities for everybody. And we'll go into why this matters a little bit later, but in sort of a comedy of errors, if you're buying any asset, let's say real estate, for example, and you were to drive into the garage, and the pylons holding the building up are cracking, and your entire building is leaning over, that's going to impact the price of the condos. And this is sort of a comedy of errors that we see right now at the Millennium Building in downtown San Francisco. So this is part of the due diligence process, that if you ever get to a point where your company wants to exit, part of that due diligence is going to be driving into the garage and looking at the foundation. That's what the infrastructure is. Traditionally, in order to achieve some of those results, and this is just kind of what I have seen over the past few years, there's been more, let's do more stuff. Let's put more out there, more content out there. Let's put more sites, more assets. This approach was probably reasonable up until this point, but now we know that we're not going to win the more game when we're going to get outperformed by machines that are going to be doing the more stuff. So what's an alternative approach instead of putting volume out there? Well, as far as the volume game is concerned, I'm from Seattle. Starbucks has definitely got the volume thing down, right? So that's why you end up with 3 Starbucks on a single block. So I'm sure you guys have seen this. New York is probably no different in this area, but the alternative approach, instead of just putting up more Starbucks, is if I were to put up better transit, better sidewalks, better way to cross the street. If I was designing a city from scratch, would I just put up redundant businesses on every block, i.e. more content everywhere? Or would I set up better transit so people can get from one place to the other and produce commerce that way? Turns out Saeed and I, we're in the sidewalk business. That's really what this is about. So if you can increase transit, the result is commerce without having to overproduce content. So now that we know that these are our goals and this is what we're trying to accomplish, we can share some actual results of customers, case studies, where very little has changed other than changing the infrastructure itself and the kind of results that you can get from doing just that. First, national review. No change to content, no fundamental change to their business model, and with just changing the speed at which the content appears on the customer's computer, significant changes in revenue. So why does this happen? Well, user experience is huge. The first transaction happens in the first 2.5 seconds, right? That 2.5 seconds, what gets painted on the screen is directly related to how much money the site produces. That's kind of the first note. Now, there's one caveat to this. This applies really for sites who are doing over 300,000 visitors a month or more, right? The aspects on that is, even with that kind of volume, the monetization model doesn't necessarily matter. In this case, it is an ad-based business, but it doesn't matter if it's a paywall-based business or a subscription business either. Those conversion rates can still occur of this type if you've got that kind of volume with no other change other than the speed of delivery. So, and maybe you guys are doing this well already. We've got an offer for you at the end to determine exactly how you're performing against your peers on that type of speed. The second is, we debated on whether to present this one or not. Anybody know who had this quote? Wild guess. It's, we struggled to find a New York case study that, and for better or for worse, this is a controversial group with very opinionated content, but one thing that we could all agree on, they have nailed it. And what they nailed is they not only understood their audience, not only produced the content that the audience matters. At the end of the day, content is king. And when I first mentioned that in 1973 there was a blog about the World Wide Web, all of this other technology got introduced. What is the thing that remains the reason why the internet exists today is content. So content is king, and it is also the most durable asset that is on the internet. None of these other tools and software and everything else, those in some ways are waves of incremental improvement, but the thing that creates the internet and its value is the content you guys are making. And as a result, Barstool has been making great content. Not only did they make content that the audience wanted, they put the content into places where their audience was. And I know that traditionally that's been, I got it on my website, I've got it on a mobile format, and I've got it on social. Well, now there's new kind of models like Substack and Beehive, but there's also models that most people generally miss, like how many are on Messenger, SMS, Telegram? How many are on Push? Because an app, in lack of a better description, is another type of sidewalk, right? It's access to an audience over a format that is digital, and you can monetize that in its own way. So distribution of content across multiple channels is the next main strategy. Guess what's at the root of that? It's the infrastructure itself. This is the wires part. Now, on the third case, which is going to be a little bit more in depth, there is an argument to be made that even without revenue itself, the metrics of performance and the brand engagement and the quality of content has enterprise value, even if your company made no money at all. And there's an actual case study. I'll have Saeed walk through with you on this one about a brand you guys will all recognize that essentially has significant enterprise value without considering any of the money that they're making.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Saeed. I'm the CEO of Refact. I feel like today everybody has been talking about data infrastructure, and it feels like a tech conference rather than a media conference. I'm here to talk about the question that I feel like hasn't been answered today, which is if you're a media company, where would you start? We've heard a lot of good examples today from companies like Workweek or Every, that they have really truly embedded software thinking, data-driven decision-making into their DNA. But for a lot of people here, that might sound a little bit foreign, new, something that they're not very familiar with it. And that's why I started Refact. Refact is a consulting company, as a digital agency, that is trying to bridge the gap between how media companies using technology today and what potentially they could use tomorrow. I've been lucky to work with some of you guys in this room. I was with Sam, working with Sam and his team since 2020. And what was fascinating about working with them was that they were truly one of the companies that they were testing every aspect of their process, from the channels that they were acquiring customers, to their creatives, to their flows of subscription, monetization, and everything else. Well, it's good for companies who already figured it out, and we heard about some of them today. But for companies who don't know where to start, I feel like this is the talk. This is why we're having this conversation. It's really frightening if you are just starting today. There's a lot goes into measuring engagement, conversions, how you can improve all these things. We've heard a lot today about all these amazing tools that help media companies to gather, collect data. But how do you know if you are maximizing the value of these tools? Well, here's what we're working on this offer with Flexpress. If you don't know where to start, this is what we would like to offer to you guys today with everybody who's attending this conference. With that, I'm passing it to Ajay. Share that.
Yeah, perfect. So this is, if you look at this kind of ice cream sandwich, I know it looks kind of intimidating. The infrastructure down here, this is the blinking lights. I spent 25 years here. This is the stuff that is necessary. If you haven't paid much attention to it, you've probably already selected a strategy. Now that strategy might be working for you, or it might not be working for you. Statistically, half of you guys could be doing significantly better on it, on core web vitals and on performance. You get significant speed if you haven't been paying attention to this one. All of this other stuff on top, that is sort of your leading indicator. Some of that has to do with infrastructure, some of it has to do with architecture, et cetera, et cetera. We can measure all that stuff. Getting some baseline of where you are on that, that's our goal. The trailing indicator is revenue, right? That's how we know that the stuff that we did here worked. Now, what we want to do is be able to take all of those, turn it into a report for you guys, and determine if there's money that's left on the table because either the infrastructure can be optimized, the architecture can be optimized, and show you the exact plan of what changes you can make in order to maximize your trailing indicator of revenue. So usually this report, it will take a two-person team, 20 to 40 hours to produce. It's a significant cost on our side. We want to give it to everybody here at AMO because our real goal is to create some health and wealth in the media space, and this is exclusively who we serve. And selfishly, if we make you guys successful, we're gonna do pretty good ourselves. So, with that being said, thank you for your time. Ajay, Flexpress, Saeed, with Refact, come talk to us outside, and I'm happy to share more of our thoughts on how we can help. Thank you.